And so I would think of it like this interaction of data and logic permits these higher shades of complexity and subtlety. And all of that is consistent with the formulation of it as data and logic. But there's a certain level of complexity where it is similarly with the special sciences. Like, it seems to me that chemistry is an extension of physics and derivative of the physical mechanics of matter and motion. But it also seems to me that at a certain point, you can't talk informatively about what's going on in a chemical reaction just by talking about physics. There's a new domain. You have to construct new principles to summarize what's going on. And I think that the higher up that scale you go from physics to chemistry to biology to physiology and neurology and psychology and so on, the further up that scale you climb, the more and more it makes sense to talk about it in terms of things that are equally complicated. That's why I think computers works very well, because it's also a system built up out of many smaller, more fundamental subsystems. Like just the computer that we're interacting with now has like 5 or 6 layers beneath what we actually interact with on the operating system and the GUI and the random pieces of software that we might be running, all the way down to the assembly code, and then further than that into the actual electrical engineering of the component circuitry, and then further down into actually the nature of electricity. And the more complex the thing that you're describing is, I think the less it makes sense to say, well, it's all physics or it's all metaphysics, so let's talk about it in those terms. It's like, well, yeah, it does ultimately ground out in fundamental principles like that. But if you want to get a tractable and intelligible explanation, you're generally better off sticking with analogies to similarly complex systems and kind of looking for points of similarity and points of contact with that, and just kind of ensuring that those analogies conform to the truths of the fundamental principles.